put energy and effort and perseverance and all of that in. And so, you're doing the work for sure.
I ain't gonna lie, it took me a while to do work, but I would just be like, I ain't doing this. I ain't saying I'm sorry. I ain't hugging her when I'm mad. But man, yeah, y'all have given us a lot of tools to really help us get over the hump, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Of course. Yeah.
I just was telling him he's working on it.
Yeah. What's before we get started, I know we got a lot of stuff to get into, but
yes.
What's something that I've said that you was like, wait, what did you?
Oh man, now, you sure you want me to?
Yep. Tell it all. Tell it.
No. Let me see. Oh man.
Well, I'll let me answer this.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point in time where you were like, I don't know if we can help them?
No.
Really?
No.
I feel like
no,
they can't get us to do this.
No, it wasn't. I will say this: there were times it got incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was a heavy lift.
Yeah.
But not impossible.
Okay.
Not impossible. You do get to those places, even as a counselor on this side of things, where you do feel and you get pushed to the brink of, is this going to work? That little bit of hopelessness that tries to creep in. But no. I think that with you guys, again, just having those difficult, really heavy moments in time, you were able to push through it because of just your personal commitments to each other. Yeah. You guys signed on that line, right? That marriage certificate, that's thick through thin forever, right?
Disappeared ink.
I'm
messing.
Well, apparently we had some more difficulty than technical difficulty than what I realized. We were visual but not audible.
Oh, okay.
So prayerfully all is well now. I understand that we can be heard. So again, apologies for the delay and the technical difficulties, but it will be well worth it. When God starts blessing, the enemy starts messing. So we're just going to keep moving through. It's true.
There we go.
All right. So we've got Terrell Pugh here. He's a counselor, a pastor, and a doctoral candidate in developmental psychology. Let me pause. The reason that we have him here is because it is Men's Mental Health Month.
Yes.
So we felt like it would be prudent of us to bring someone in who is well-versed, well-trained, and so the voice you'll hear primarily will be of Terrell, and we'll ask him a couple of questions. But this is why we're introducing this gentleman here. He's passionate about promoting emotional wellness, spiritual growth, and strong relationships. He's originally from Brooklyn, New York. He now resides in Atlanta with his wife and their 7 children.
7.
Oh,
sound like my family.
Terrell holds a master's degree in marriage, couple, and family counseling, and is currently completing his dissertation research for a PhD in developmental psychology. He is the founder and counseling director of Arise and Live Christian Counseling, where he leads a team of dedicated and passionate counselors. Now, as a visionary leader, Terrell has developed an accredited Christian counseling certification and training program, and has created several mental health apps and authored multiple books focused on healing, identity, and relational wellness. So it is for absolute certain why he's sitting in this chair. And so, Terrell, welcome, my man. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join the FellaShip.
Thank you. It's a blessing to be here. I am thoroughly excited about this. I will say that off the bat. Men's Mental Health Month. As a man myself, it's an underappreciated and talked about topic, and so man, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
So real quick before we get into the story that you're going to tell us, we're going to get a couple of fun facts about yourself.
Okay.
We already know you're married, and for how long you been married? We know how many kids, but how long?
23 years.
23 years. 23. That's totally awesome. So if you're under 23, make sure you listen in real well. If you've been married more than 23, make sure you listen real well. So you can get another 23. You've already told us where you're from. How long have you been in Atlanta, though?
Since 2007.
Okay. So Darn
The
near
math on
native
that,
now.
right.
Getting close to being a native. Now tell us a fun fact about yourself that no one would guess just by looking at you.
Ooh, okay. Fun fact about myself. All right. Probably that I'll share two fun facts,
Sure,
maybe two.
sure,
Okay.
sure.
In not high school, in college, I was the assistant president of the Universal Hip Hop Preservation Society, and so I was a huge
All right,
hip hop
then.
head.
Okay.
Huge. I
Okay.
mean, from the start to at that point in time, it was 20. It was like 2022. I mean, 2022, 2002. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's one fun fact that most
Okay.
people are like, oh,
So no wonder you were singing Sugar Hill Gang before
Right.
we went on.
Exactly.
Right.
exactly.
Sorry, y'all.
But other than that, also during that time, I was on the. This is crazy when I think about it, but I was on the verge of. Look, don't judge, please.
Hey,
all right, no judge.
judge-free
This is
zone.
fellowship, right?
That's
All
right.
right, this is-
Judge-free zone here.
I was on the verge of starting my own religion. I know that sounds crazy, but before I had come to Christ, I was into a lot of different things.
Oh, wow.
Hebrew Israelites. I was studying that. Black Muslims. A lot of the pro-black nationalist
Yeah.
type of philosophies.
Wow.
And so I was going to say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just bring this all together. But then Christ found me. He's
Yeah.
like, listen, no, you ain't
You
about
ain't
that.
not doing that. Okay.
But,
Yeah,
but yes.
We wouldn't have known that by looking at you for sure. All right.
Thought about that.
Now we're gonna do a few favorites. So these are 1 to 3 word answers.
Okay. Okay.
So rapid fire. Your favorite sport.
Basketball.
Favorite
There
player.
we go. Yeah.
Favorite player.
Ooh.
Come on now. This finna decide a lot. We said this the last podcast.
All right. I'm sorry for all my people out there, but I am gonna have to go with LeBron. I know people are going to probably say, okay,
Podcast over. Let's go. We out.
I'm with you. You still safe, brother. You still safe.
all right.
We're gonna have to do a whole podcast
I'm
on that.
telling you, we got to.
All right. So favorite genre of music, you've already said hip hop. Hip hop.
Yes. Yes.
So who is your favorite hip hop artist? And you can give me
Ooh.
2 if it's
Okay.
a toss up.
Yeah. So I'll give you 2. You know, Christian rapper, I do like Shylin. He's part of Lamp Mode. Very theological heavy in his lyricism. So I love that. Years ago it used to be, and you know, I still like his style, but Nas.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But
That's
no.
right. Good,
All right.
good.
All
That song he has where he's talking about shooting somebody from in reverse. I forget the name of it. It's been a while since I heard it, but it was good. That
Okay.
was crazy.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'll throw in Most Def. I'll throw in Most Def.
Okay.
And
It's a little old school.
yeah,
one.
Most
Okay.
Def was
Okay.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
yes.
So what would you rather have? A quad cab truck or a sports car?
Oh, quad cab truck all the way.
Yes,
All
sir.
the way.
Yes, sir. Are you a grill master or a grill disaster?
Oh, master.
Okay.
Come on now.
He answered that. He gave us a Kevin Hart answer. He can answer that with his whole self, like his whole chest.
Yes.
Answered that question.
Yes.
All right. And then high-rise Lux condo or 5-acre custom build.
5-acre custom build.
Not surprised. You got 7 kids.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yes, and I'll say this: we
Yeah.
recently purchased land out in Tennessee,
Okay.
and that's part of that 5-acre
Okay.
dream one day.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's what's up, man.
And then last question: you prefer a movie or stage play?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with, if I had to choose, probably maybe movie. I'm gonna go with movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and let you start with the questions. Now we'll get into our subject matter. I just wanted the people to get to know a little bit about you and let them know you're as human as everybody else.
That's right.
You just have a specialty and a designation of study, and that's what we're here to talk about. So let's go ahead and turn the ship a little bit.
All right. First question. So this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, right? Most of us don't know that we are mentally in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. We don't really know it until after the fact. So what's some causes first, and then some of the things that we can look for to identify, man, I'm on the verge of something being really wrong.
Okay. So causes and ways to identify.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I go too long, please just stop me.
Okay.
Because
No,
I
you
can
good.
go on and on with
Okay,
these,
go ahead.
with these answers. So first, I'll give you a short answer,
Okay.
something direct, and then maybe some explanation behind it. Okay. So causes, upbringing, childhood trauma, okay, and reinforcement of those things, and I'll explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
Because the causes they aren't just as simple as saying, one of the causes are stress or unbalanced work life. It's not that simple. So let me just start there. Okay. So what happens with us as men? Okay. One of the reasons why we are even in this predicament that we find ourselves in is because it does start way before we're even born. Okay. And what I mean by that is our parents use different language with us when we're in our mother's womb. And so for example, think about the things that you might say when you find out you're having a girl versus when you find out you're having a boy, right?
Yeah.
So when you find out you're having a girl, what might you say?
Oh, a girl.
I might have to get a couple more guns.
Yeah, right.
Right. When you're having a boy,
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like you it's almost like you feel like you work for it. You got it. Yeah.
And you start preconceiving what he's gonna do. You already pre-describe it. Oh, he's gonna run that rock. Or
There
he
you go.
gonna shoot like LeBron or whatever.
Yes.
Start.
Yeah.
all right. And so again, we're talking about causes here, right? So this is way before the child is even born. So what happens is that language then gets spoken to the child in the womb. And believe it or not, that child can understand and hear. They may not be able to hear language and understand it like we do, but what they do hear is they hear tone and they also hear rhythm. And so when you say, oh, that has a different tone and rhythm, then right? Yeah. And they understand that. It's more energy, it's harder. That continues once your son is born. That continues with messages like, hey, that's my little man right there. This is little big man. Or you're gonna take care of mommy, you're gonna protect, you're gonna protect mommy, you're gonna be the man of the house. All of that becomes reinforces of this.
Stop crying, boy. That's another.
Stop crying.
Boys don't cry.
Yeah.
Be a man.
One.
Yes.
All right. Tell them they don't cry. They one.
That's right. So when your daughter gets hurt, you might say, oh, what happened? How do you feel? Right? You solicit an emotional response. Whereas with your son, you might not do that. Or you may not stay in the emotion.
Yeah.
If they stay in the emotion too long, you might rush them through it and say exactly what you said. So again, we're talking about causes. So all of that reinforces to them, this is what masculinity is, and this is how I should be emotionally. And then the same thing happens in school, and they start to compete with their peers, with other boys, and that same thing happens. And then something interesting happens in adolescence. During the adolescent stage is when we're exploring different identities, who we are. Okay? Career day, you get to dress up, right? Something called identity foreclosure happens with boys. It doesn't happen with girls. Identity foreclosure is basically the elimination of all other identities and the fixation on one identity. And what happens with boys is we don't get to explore our emotions. We don't get to explore other possibilities of what being a man or a masculine means, because by that time, by adolescence, we're told.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And so then I'm gonna just fast forward real quick here. Let's say you move into adulthood, okay, and you're transitioning out of the house. Okay, what does a transition for a young woman look like versus a young man look like? Say 18, 19, 20-ish.
Shoot, mostly for girls, it's like they don't really have to leave, really.
You're right.
Okay.
But for boys, though, you better get out of that.
Exactly.
You better.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you, by and large, I would believe that more resources are probably thrown the young lady's way. Versus your son, because you want him to find his own way.
Yeah.
Not total absolving of doing things for him. but I doubt it's the same.
Exactly. You both are 100% correct. Whereas there may be more support there, and I'm speaking generally,
Sure.
right? While there may be more support there for, say, a daughter, for a son, there's less support, and there's greater expectation for him to find his own way and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And to be a man, grow into the man. And so that message carries over. Again, same messages talking about causes here. I'm going to tie this in a nice bow in a second. Then he moves into a relationship, right, with a woman, okay? When he moves into that relationship, what do you think he begins to hear? What are the first things as that relationship begins to form and they start to plan for their future?
As far as like marriage and things like that.
It could be marriage.
Well, probably some to do with, like his work
You're
ethic.
gonna take care of me.
Yes.
Yes. It becomes about the numbers, how much money you made,
Yeah,
how much credit score,
What kind of car you
things like
got?
that.
Yes.
Where we gonna live?
Take me out,
Yeah.
all that.
Okay. And so I have a question, right? And so we just went from pre-birth, right, all the way to adulthood, marriage. Where was the emotional investment or the emotional ask or the emotional curiosity in any of that during any of those stages?
Maybe some in when you're a kid, but most of the time you don't really see it.
Exactly. And so when we talk about causes, the causes go deeper than just having a hard day at work or not being able to find a job or perhaps difficulties with your relationship. The causes, the real root causes, are how we develop children way before they're born. With boys, with male children, we're just not taught or trained to be emotional. And so with all of that, by the time he's a man, emotions are foreign to him. He has the same emotions that women and every other person on this planet Earth has.
Yeah.
He gets angry, he gets sad, he gets bored, he gets happy, he feels anxious, all the same emotions, but doesn't know how to express it because he's never learned or had the opportunity or the space to say, okay, here's the emotion, so I want you to deal with it. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the cause. The cause is it's developmental. It's a developmental cause from lack of emotional exposure and growth throughout his entire life. Okay.
So in what ways can that or does that show itself up, as you've seen in like in an everyday situation or whatever periodic? But what does that look like? How does that man begin to behave?
Okay. So the best way I can describe that, and I'll explain it if you don't get it initially, but I'll answer that with a superhero. Is that all right? If I say superhero? Batman. Batman.
Okay.
So I might even use that analogy for a lot of the answers now that I'm thinking about it. Batman. A lot of us want to be Superman because Superman is strong. He's invincible. He's the man of steel, right? But in reality, a lot of us are Batman. And what I mean by that is a lot of us are wounded, right, in our own ways. But we refuse to acknowledge the wound and we hide the wound. You know, Batman, I used to read a lot of comics and all of that. And I'm, into the Marvel, DC and all of that. So that's where this is coming from. Okay. But that's who Batman is. There's a lot of aggression in Batman. There's a lot of sense of duty in Batman.
Yeah.
I think the running joke is, Batman can beat anybody with prep time. Okay. That type of idea is pervasive with men. I can figure anything out. Just give me time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things also is that Batman has a contingency plan for everyone, Superman included. And that's how we as men sometimes feel. I have to have a contingency plan for everyone in every situation.
Oh, yeah.
And if I don't, then, I'm a failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so here's another thing with Batman. Batman's character, right, he was created through trauma, right? He saw the death of his parents.
Yeah.
Okay. With men, that's similar. We experience trauma in our past that propels us to those those emotionally scarred and void places where we hide behind a lot of that. A lot of people don't see this about the character, Batman, but there's a lot of shame there with him. You know, when you like, if you read some of the comics or if you've seen some of his origin story movies, one part that they will show you is that he experiences shame for not being able to save his parents.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that is really what controls everything he does, his problems with his emotions and showing them. With men, it's the same thing, right? We have shame because maybe I can't show up the way my wife wants me to show up, the way my mother wants me to show up, the way.
Boy, man, I be feeling it like, I be like, dang, I want to do this, but I can't.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so it's that shame that really is driving us internally. And what does Batman do when he has to figure something out?
Go into the cave.
He goes into a cave. Women go and talk to people, right? What do?
This is crazy.
We disassociate.
Yes.
And so when we talk about signs, look for the Batman signs. Is this man becoming Batman?
Wow.
Is he going into a cave and speaking less, right? Is he maybe becoming a bit more aggressive and short-tempered? Those are the signs you look for.
Okay.
And that's good because, especially as an adult male, if you're, well, even on a job, but I was going to say in a relationship, you know, if she wants you to stay there and let's talk it out, and you're trying to go into a cave so you can reset and get that contingency plan together. So talk about that, because I'm sure you've seen that. It's like, I just need time, but time to her is a bit of a threat. But for us, it's essential. And then we get more frustrated when we can't recluse and go into that, not literal cave, but, you know, just a place where we can kind of reset.
Yeah. And I'll say this, that goes back to how we've developed over time. So that type of thing does have to be negotiated. Meaning you can't take something out of its environment and expect it to just function naturally and healthily in a new environment. So there will still be a weaning period that we as men need to go into our cave. However, we shouldn't look to that as being the antidote or that the solution all the time. We have to know that, look, that's generally speaking, that's not necessarily a healthy practice that we're doing. So when our wives want us to talk or people want us to talk, that we should run to. And we should sort of negotiate and really balance going into our caves and pushing ourselves outside of that comfort zone and actually engaging in talking.
That's a strong nugget you just dropped for mental wellness or mental health, or you end up with the opposite of that. Because you're really trying to support the fact that you need to do that, but to what you just said, that may not necessarily be the best thing all the time, and it needs to be negotiated even when it is something that's needed.
Yes.
If we hear that correctly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Wow. So you remember I told you I was going to ask you to tell us a story.
Yes.
This will be a real story. It's not something made up that Terrell's going to be able to share with us, you know, what he can, because of course he has privileges, you know, to his clients. So he has to respect that. But just kind of give us, because the reason we want the story and we're having the dialogue is because we want the fellas to understand, first of all, we get it because we're fellas. But just like with everything else, we can't just leave things the way they are. At least that's not the safe thing to do. And so out of this conversation, we really want you guys to know that there's help, there's strategies, there's practices that you can use, but also where people have kind of missed and messed that up and what that meant, you know, how that came out for them. That's why we want to hear this story, because we're really wanting to prevent anyone from coming off of a ledge, whatever that ledge is. We're trying to help prevent anybody coming off of a ledge. So.
So I'll say this. I'll share my personal story, because I don't need any confidentiality releases for that, right? So I'll share that, and then I'll share just little anecdotal things from other stuff. Okay. But I remember I was probably this part of my life, I will admit, it was a blur.
Mm.
Some of it was a blur. Okay. Me and my wife, we had been married for about 5 or so years up at this point, and we had lost our daughter. She had died from sudden infant death since. And being married young, I got married at 20, so we were still very much young. She was 19. That type of thing was devastating, And then for me as a man, I did not handle it well. I did exactly what I shared with you previously. I pulled away and I went into this this cave. And I remember, my wife Tanisha, she would reach out to me. Terrell, talk to me. Terrell, talk to me. And I wouldn't talk. Not that I was mute, but I didn't share my emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. That was perhaps one of the most emotional things that had happened to me. Yes. Wow. And I think I would say I began to spiral. I didn't spiral to the point of some men do spiral. And I'll just say this as a caveat. One of the things that we do see that men turn to is substance abuse. That is a big thing for men. And the reason why it's substance abuse is because think about something that you can do that will allow you to cope and manage and get through whatever it is you need to get through that no one will know about.
Yep.
And it's drugs, right? And it typically starts out with some sort of maybe performance drug or some sort of drug to allow the man to do something he feels he can't do. Okay. But then that leads to other drugs, and right then you have an addiction.
Gotcha.
But for me, during that time, I became argumentative. I became short. My boundaries in my marriage became very, very lax. Okay. And it almost reached a point where I didn't care. Our marriage was literally on the rocks. And I remember, here goes that messaging again. Yeah. I remember I had spoken to my uncle. Now, my uncle was, look, listen, everyone has uncles that are out there, right? From the street. Listen.
I thought you were going to sound like a good Moses.
No,
Moses, but like a good uncle.
He's the uncle that taught me to fight. He's the uncle that
like good uncle.
Yeah. Everyone in the neighborhood knew him. No one messed with me because of him.
Yeah.
That type of uncle.
Yeah, that's a good uncle.
But I remember he told me when this happened, he said, he told me that I couldn't cry. He said, look, because I was crying. This is when he was talking to me and I was crying. He's like, look, you don't need to be doing that. You got to be strong. You got your wife, you got your other kids here. You're going to get through this, but you got to get through it like a man. And this was the messaging, right? And so that became the messaging to me. So that's what I did. There's this movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. Yeah. But there's a black cop in that movie. And he says something. He says, I forgot what happened, but then he says, oh man, this is so beautiful. It's enough to make a grown man cry. And then he cries and a tear comes out his eye. And then he says, but not this man. And he's sniffing. He says, get back in there, tear. Mm-hmm. And he sucks the tear back into his eye. Right? Side note, more messaging, even in cartoons. Right? But that was me. That was me. Despite the destruction that I was causing in my relationship and my marriage, in that moment, I didn't care. And I was just consumed with, why did this happen? I felt like a failure. I felt like a failure. And I'll say this, I still go through healing from that to this day, to this very day. I'll tell you this, recently we became godparents.
Congratulations.
Some friends of ours, it's a blessing. They told us, look, we want you guys to be the godparents. We accepted. We had went over to visit. I held the baby. It was beautiful, right? Look at this. This is how much this messaging is pervasive, okay? This just happened, kid you not, last week. Okay. We lost our daughter. This is back in 2006, 2005, we lost her. When I went home that night, right, I had a dream that I lost my grandson, my godson. that I mishandled him.
Mm.
So to this day,
Wow.
those demons still try to come back
Wow.
and speak and say, you're still not good enough.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because look, I'm still a man and I still have that messaging in me. It is incredibly difficult to get away from that messaging of you're not good enough. This was your fault. You should have, this happened on your watch.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, for a long time after that, I didn't want to babysit anyone's children. I didn't want to be around anyone's children, even my own children. I would tell Tanisha, like, look, I want to make sure that you're here with me when I'm there with them. I mean, it took a little while for me to get to
So you had to do your own work.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
But that was part of my story. There's a lot to that. But yeah, I got lost in that story.
No, you're good.
Refocus me,
You're
please.
good. So were you already on course to become a counselor and all the things that you are now? Were you on course for that at 25 when you lost the baby, or did that trigger that too?
It did trigger that. I won't say that. It triggered that course. An agency had came out and they spent time with us. One of the things that they did with us, actually, they took us to Six Flags, Great Adventures in New Jersey. And I thought that was the most inappropriate thing. I'm like, what are you guys doing? But I then later realized that you still do have to enjoy life, even in the midst of trials. And so, but their level of compassion, and it was a Christian organization, it really turned my eye towards what healing looked like, and it could be. And I'll add this caveat. It was also because, well, I'll say that for another podcast. I was about to share something, but I'll say that for another podcast.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that for another podcast.
All right.
But I was in actually design and multimedia. I was a graphic designer,
Okay.
/ like photographer. That's what I did up to that point, like freelancing,
Okay.
and did some other work too. But that is what put me on course for it. Yeah,
Okay.
in short.
All right. Go ahead to your next question.
Man, that was
Unless you got unless you want to pick it back up.
no, that was good. I was like, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Wow.
Man, I did want to ask this question. What is the difference between somebody needing professional help versus just you need like a friend to talk to, just share?
That's good.
Because sometimes you don't really know. It's like, I don't know if I should be the one that's helping you through this, or you should be seeking some professional help. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you know?
So I will say that can be difficult if you're a friend that's listening and you're looking out for these things. That can be difficult.
Yeah.
But I will say we not usually, but we do say the level of severity. So to help put that into some layman terms and what that might look like. So for example, if you notice the person is pulling away, the pulling away behavior, that might be okay. That might be normal. It might not be cause for, okay, we need to get you professional help. It's not really until maybe self-harming starts to happen, and that onset can be very quick. And I'll speak to that in a second. It could also be you start to see there's their work begins to be impacted. So maybe they're showing up to work late. Maybe the work that they're doing, they're not focusing on it. Maybe they're starting to neglect some of their personal hygiene. Maybe the relationship is their marital relationship or whatever relationship they're in. Maybe that's deteriorated. If you start to see those signs, then yes, this is beyond what we're talking about here. You might need to speak to someone professionally. Now, getting back to the self-harming thing, the problem with that, though, sometimes the speed at which these things onset is very quick. It's very quick, meaning a person can go from, he pulled away yesterday to now he's doing something and he has a dramatic drop off in his health or whatever it is. So I like to say, speak to someone immediately. Don't wait until you're in or you see these severe signs. Let them get help in the beginning. That's what prevention is all about. The moment you start to feel or you start to see your friend is stressed, maybe you should speak to someone. Right.
And I want to add real quick, this is why this conversation is being had, because we want to help take away the stigma
Yeah.
from not seeking help yourself.
Yes.
Because the first person that's going to know that they're in trouble is you. It's me. When I'm in trouble, I'm the first person to know I'm really in trouble. And so, as Terrell has said, that onset can be quick. So, to thine own self be true.
Yes.
So again, we're doing this, and I know there are others that are covering this topic this month, but we're doing this for the fellas here on the ship because we want to take away the stigma. There's no shame. He's already talked about messaging. There's been enough adverse messaging for all of us, and it's put us in some pretty precarious situations and emotional places. So we want to encourage the fellas tonight. If you see something, say something, even if that's seeing something in yourself. So I did want to say that. Did you have another question that you wanted?
Yeah. So there's this new term called crashing out. That all the kids say, "Oh, I'm gonna crash." You heard that?
I was thinking that as you were asking that question.
Yeah.
But yes.
But so like it's like this whole like people look forward to it now, right? Oh, you're gonna crash out, get your phone out, stuff like that. But my question is like, so I teach middle school. I can kind of see when somebody they're about to go off, right? I can see that with kids. Sometimes, like you said, with adults, sometimes it's kind of a really quick and spontaneous thing. Like when you see somebody that's on the verge of crashing out, what do you say? Because sometimes you don't know what to say to necessarily talk somebody off the ledge or just to help. Like you don't. I don't say something because I'll be like, I'm scared that I'll say something that'll take them over the edge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so what to say? So first, I want to also add, be very, very observant. If you are worried about someone, look at their eyes, right? Look at where they're looking. Are they spacing out? Are they zoning out? Are they becoming fidgety? How is their voice? Are they, is their language steady or is it unsteady? Things like that. So do look for some of those physical things for the crash outs, right, as they say. I'm laughing because my children said they told me I was going to crash out recently.
That's
when I went to go discipline one of my son. Is it okay if I go on a slight tangent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, tell it.
When we were overseas, we were in Greece on a vacation, and in a whole nother country, my 12-year-old son decides to take a little stone, throws it over the little area we were staying at, the Airbnb, and it hits the rooftop of someone else's house, a solar panel, and breaks the solar panel in Greece of this
crash out.
It's
Get it.
I was gonna. So it's funny, after I disciplined them and we talked through that, and I thank God it was only $500. I thought it was going to be. I know. That was the quickest $500 I ever paid. Wow. Yes. Yeah. Because I was thinking this is going to be a few thousand.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to have a payment plan, surrender my passport.
Right.
I'm going to have to write a letter to Trump. We're going to have to, get me out.
Get out of the situation. Right. Yeah, we have to do a prisoner exchange for you.
Right. Exactly. But I thank God. But afterwards, when we talked about it, that's what they said. They said, Dad, I thought she was going to crash out. And so that's what made me laugh in that moment. But no, getting back to the question. So yeah, look for those physical signs, right? But what to say to them? I'm gonna be honest. We sometimes overthink that. We think I have to have the words of Christ in that moment, right? I have to make sure I'm making some Jesus words right now. But it's not. All you have to do is just act. You can put your hand on their shoulder, right? Embrace them. Use some sort of physical contact and let them know it's going to be okay. Yeah. It's going to be okay. And then ask them what's wrong. Just as simple as that. What's wrong? Yeah. What's bothering you? And then they'll begin to tell you, and you have to listen. You do. It's not something that you just allow to go in one ear and out the other. Right. And it's not a superficial ask either. Oh, I was just asking to be polite. No, I really want to know what's wrong, because again, these are men who don't feel like others care anyway. Yeah. And so you don't want to add to that. Well, you're just asking me just to ask me. No, I'm asking you because one, I can relate to you, right? I have my own challenges. And two, I don't want you to go down this path that you're about to go down I want to help you off this ledge. And so, yeah, just physical contact, let them know it's going to be okay, and then ask them, what's wrong? What's bothering you? That's it.
And on that note, when you're trying to help someone,
Mm-hmm.
you know that you have, a history of something that you've dealt with yourself. Is it not so much safe? That's not really the word I want to use, but is it advantageous to the person going through in the moment for you to sit there and share your story at that time? Or is that when you know what I mean? Because then to them, it makes it seem like you're now making it about you when they're already feeling some kind of way. So speak to that for us, because you don't know and you're really trying to be helpful, but you don't want to end up being harmful. All right.
Yeah, I understand. And that is a very skillful thing you have to use, because your story can be powerful. It can, right? But like you said, it can be very disadvantageous, right? Because it can distract and make the person feel even less important.
Right.
So I will say, in the moment of crisis, I will say no.
Okay.
Don't share your story in the moment of crisis. Okay. Think about it like it's a weapon you have. Your story is a good weapon. It's a tool that you can use. Don't let that be your go-to first. Let your go-to inquiring about them.
Okay.
How are you feeling? What's happening? You. And then if you can't get through to them, then you might want to share your story.
Okay.
Yes. So that's because your story is very powerful. And so that can be like the Hail Mary sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's good, because I'd be going to that first. I see like somebody be like, "Oh man, I'm mad about this." I'd be like, "It happened to me before. Let me tell you about it."
Yeah.
I'm quick to go to that.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, the other thing about sharing your story too soon, they're not going to understand why you're sharing your story to them, because to them, they're thinking, well, you don't know what's going on with you.
Yeah, because you hadn't gotten that far.
Exactly. And so there's no correlation in their minds to what you're telling them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what are some common misconceptions about men's mental health that you've encountered?
Oh,
Misconceptions.
Some? You want me to say some? There's a lot. No.
No.
So I'll say this. One, this directly connects to what men's mental health, a misconception, is that men don't have emotions, right? That we don't have emotions,
right?
That we're, I don't know, that we just don't have emotions, but we know that's not true.
It's not true at all.
We have the same emotions. And look, let me just really simplify this, all right? Whether you're male, female, XY chromosomes, we all have the same hormones in us that contribute to the different emotions that we feel, right?
Okay.
We all have, now granted, us men, we have higher levels of testosterone than women, right? Lower levels of estrogen than women, but it's the same thing. We have serotonin, just like they do. We have dopamine. We have all of the same hormones. We have cortisol, that stress hormone. So we have all of that. And then we have the same faculties that regulate those emotions. Now, I say that to say that's me simplifying emotions to chemicals in our bodies. So it's all the same. It's all the same. That's a misconception. We just don't have the environmental factors as we grow up and the culturing that allows us to explore them. Right. So that's sort of one myth or misconception. The other misconception is that we have a greater threshold or higher capacity to deal with and carry emotions or whatever that might be. And that's not true.
So we don't have a greater threshold?
We don't have a greater threshold. No, we don't. We have the same. So think about this. Let me ask you this. When you hear that, right? When we often hear, men are stronger. We're able to bear more. We're able to bear more. Okay. Where do you bear that? Where does that go?
Deep down when nobody can find it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Deep down where nobody can find it.
Bear that thing, boy.
And bearing it, what does bearing it look like? What does carrying that look like?
Going on like nothing's wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're not really bearing it. You're not really carrying it.
Yeah.
You're suppressing.
You're suppressing it. It's a suppression. That's what's happening. And so you're not allowed to show or express that emotion. There's no such thing as a general gender greater level of bearing emotions, because again, when we talk about emotions, they're chemicals. There's no gland or organ in our body that's bigger than woman's that happens to be able to hold more chemicals. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. And so that just doesn't exist.
Gotcha.
So we all have the same chemicals.
Okay.
It's just it's how you're groomed, how you grow. Some women have a greater level of capacity to bear emotions. We know that. People sometimes say, wow, that's such a strong woman.
Yeah.
And then you go ask that strong woman, and she'll probably tell you the same thing. She'll probably say, no, I'm strong because I have to be strong.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like this.
Right.
I cry every time I go into,
right.
My room.
So it's more born out of the necessity.
Yes.
It's not where it's organically, hey, we're just built for this
Exactly.
necessarily.
Wow. Exactly.
Boy, that is a myth that just got busted right there.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And look,
Wow.
not for anything. That's why. So that's where the shame comes in, right? Because the piece of knowledge and information in our minds is that we should be able to.
Yeah.
So then, for those of us who can't, we think there's something wrong with me.
Why I can't handle this?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you compare and you look at the next man that looks to be doing so well at carrying and managing. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And you start to feel inferior.
Yeah.
And for some of us, here's what that leads to. That leads to suicide.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, just to throw that out there. I'm not sure if that would have been a question coming up, but men are more likely to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Now, I will say women do commit attempts at suicide more than men, but men actually go through with it more than women. So
What you mean?
So men actually
So
commit to suicide.
they're successful at doing it. I hate to use that word, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yes.
it's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you said women and men both think about or attempt suicide at like the same rate, but men actually carry it out more.
So women attempted more.
They attempt more.
They attempted more, but men actually carried it out more.
Oh, wow.
So they actually do it more.
Yeah.
And like you said, that word, but
Wow.
So yeah. So this is a very serious thing
Yeah.
that we have here, for Men's Mental Health Month. This is not something that is a light topic.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yes.
So what are some of the, well, before I ask that question, let me ask some more clinical question first. Because that'll be more of a wrap-up question. So,
Okay.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you see men facing today regarding their well-being and their mental health?
One of the biggest challenges, I will say, this is something I see. This is something that we see in the literature. This is something that has been pervasive through time. So even before I even got into the field of psychology, of developmental psychology, this existed. Childhood trauma, but not just any type of childhood trauma, childhood sexual trauma.
Mhm.
Because that goes counter to the message of masculinity.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Yes. That is when the literature looks at some of the precursors of what may have moved a man to suicide or what may have put him into this space where he's just really struggling with his mental health. A lot of times we do see sexual abuse in childhood in some way. So that's a big thing that's not talked about a lot.
Yeah, man. We don't talk about it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's taboo.
It's very taboo.
Yeah.
And a lot of men don't admit to having that in their past because, again, it's counter masculinity, right? Yeah. So, I'm not going to tell you that happened to me.
For sure.
I'm going to suppress that and I'll keep that to myself. I'm going to take that to the grave, but it comes out in other ways.
It does.
Yeah.
You be angry, mad, don't know why. All that stuff that happened in your childhood.
Yes.
You never dealt with.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But also, so that's one. Another thing, and this is a very big thing, specifically within a marital context, or even a relationship where there is an intimate partner. Sexual challenges. Now, when I say sexual challenges, not necessarily referring to performance, but I'm referring to lack of sex.
Okay.
Now, when you hear that, or when women hear that, they might hear, oh, he just wants sex all the time.
Right.
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 But let me tell you what happens, right?
Tell it. Tell it.
The reason why this becomes a mental health issue or a mental health concern is because, so if you have a child, a male child, right, and you're not teaching him to identify his emotions and his emotional experiences through language, right, and you're not necessarily teaching him to connect through other forms of, things, whether it be art, whether it be writing, or just anything, okay, outside of suppressing it, be a man, move forward quickly, okay, what do you leave for him to connect emotionally through? There's a few things that you do leave for him to connect emotionally through.
Okay.
Can you guess what some of those things are?
No.
No? Okay.
I mean,
Now, when I say them, you're going to be like, oh, yeah.
probably food.
Food?
I
Okay.
mean, and,
That
you
could
know,
be one.
in that it
I
could
see
it
that.
could lead to a healthy way of eating, but it's like I got to connect some kind of way. So you end up with sugar addictions, or that might not have been where you was going, but
No.
Yeah.
I get you. I get you. So I'll say this, right? One is through aggression.
Ooh, yeah.
And aggression comes out through sports,
Mhm.
right? And so when I say communicate emotions and handle and deal with emotions, this is when we're taught to be emotional. So when we hear emotional language like, now listen, I want you to get out there, get on the field, and I want you to just destroy him. Those types of, thinking about football, right?
Okay.
So there's clearly emotion in that when the coach or a dad says that to his son.
Yeah.
And so the son registers that, oh, this is emotion. But that's aggressive. That's aggression.
Okay.
And so he learns how to be aggressive. And then that becomes one of the means and modes of communicating how he feels through aggression.
okay.
The other thing, it is sex.
Yeah.
Right.
It's sex. He's a ladies' man.
Yeah.
How many girls you got?
Yeah.
Oh, how many did you pull? Right?
Yeah.
And his father shows him affection
Mm.
in those moments. Other men show him affection or
That's-
show him
Yeah.
an emotion
Yeah.
in
You
those
get the
moments.
boys right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this must be a good thing,
Mhm.
right? So the more girls I get, the more sex I have,
Mhm.
then the better I feel about myself.
Yeah.
Right. So now that becomes tied to self-image, self-concept, and all of those internal things. Fast forward into marriage. He goes into a marriage, and now he expects, this is how I'm going to express myself to my wife. Right. But when that doesn't happen, he starts to feel defeated. He starts to feel like something's wrong. He starts to feel like my identity is in question.
Yeah.
And now he starts to feel sad. He starts to feel depressed because that's his only way that
Okay.
he's learned how to express emotions.
Wow.
Right. And on top of that, he's no longer athletic.
Right.
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 And so I can't go out on a basketball court or the football field and like I used to.
Yeah.
Right. Now I have to go play golf, but there's not enough aggression in golf.
Yeah.
Right. No.
No aggression. Nice. Chill.
Right. So essentially, he looks for ways to express himself. So sex is not just a physical act for a man, but it is also a way that he communicates and expresses emotions, whether those emotions are pent up or whether or not he actually wants to feel something.
Gotcha.
Okay. But that's a big issue that we also see.
Yeah.
And this is, I'll throw this caveat in there. This is why a lot of men do tend to turn to things like pornography.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's an emotional outlet for them.
Yeah.
So whether they're watching pornography and maybe even masturbating to the pornography, it's not just an emotional release a physical release they're seeking. It's also an emotional experience that they're having.
Wow.
So, but yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
That look, y'all already know real, raw, righteous. You already know that's what we do here on the fellowship. So
That was good.
that was really good. So we'll get into where we can kind of wrap things up. So what would you say, and you can look at the camera if you want to, but what would you say to the fellas that's listening that they're kind of past that, superficial place and they're even past the intermediary place? They really are in a crisis and they know it. They may not have expressed it, or it's been expressed and maybe it's been rebuffed because the person they expressed it to isn't giving them the support they need. So speak to the fellas that are in that crisis place.
So what I would say, there's a saying, I don't remember who first said it. I'm not the originator of it, but I think it captures really well the totality of the message that I'm hoping to get across. And that would be, we ask for help, not because we're weak, but to remain strong. You ask for help, not because you're weak, but to remain strong.
Wow.
And so reaching out for help is not a behavior that signifies or means that you're weak. It means that you understand that you do have responsibilities and you do have people that are dependent on you, and you yourself are depending on yourself. And so you do want to reach out for help so that you can, continue in that great loving family that you have, or whatever that is for you. So reach out. Do not become a statistic, right? Do not do that. Do not do that. You can reach out to a crisis line, 988, which is the suicide prevention hotline, but it's also a mental health hotline where you can just speak to someone. You can reach out directly to my organization, Rise and Live Christian Counselor. I'm not the only counselor here. There are other men also. So you can reach out to us, and I guess they'll put the information in the chat. Because I don't remember the telephone number to my own organization. I think it's 770-728-8333. Yeah, that is the number. And then the website. Yes, 770-738-8333. And I'll send you the number just to make sure. But reach out for help. That's honestly, that would be it. Reach out for help. You do not have to do this alone. You do not, and you should not do this alone. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. And so also, if you, we'll put this in the chat as well. I'm gonna have to get up and go put it in the chat, so it'll be a bit of a delay. But you can also email us at fellowshippodcast25@gmail.com. Again, that's Fella, FELLA, fellowshippodcast25@gmail.com. And we can make sure that you get in touch with Terrell through that means as well. This has been just an amazing conversation. We may have to have a part 2 just to go into it, in a different way.
I got way more questions. I got a lot to
know.
know.
Go ahead and wrap us up with one more question, Robert. Because it can't get too much information on something like this, but we'll let that be the way we close out with you asking a question and Terrell answer.
In response to what you were just saying, the person who knows that they're in a crisis situation, and they don't know how to articulate that they really need help. Sometimes it's not as easy to share with our spouses when we're really struggling. And so, like, what's something you can say to a brother or a friend or someone to let them know, like, hey man, I really do need some help.
Okay, so you're asking about the person who needs the help. How do they articulate it?
Yeah, how do I let somebody know that I'm struggling bad?
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. Not everyone is at the stage to ask for help. That is a reality also we sometimes have to confront. That not everyone is at a place to ask for help. Okay. But for those who are at a place to ask for help and perhaps don't know how, what I would say is send an email, send a text. Be very, and the reason why I say that is because that it's a double-edged sword, but that does remove sometimes the connection of who's behind, and it provides a level of anonymity, right? And so sometimes when people feel anonymous, they feel like, okay, I can at least get my foot in the door. But I'll say, just send a text to your brother or to whomever. Look, I need help. And prayerfully, the person you're texting or sending that message to will probe even further. But I would say start very, very small. Very small. And you don't have to have all the answers. Let me say that too. Sometimes, going back to feeling like we have to have answers, you don't have to have the answers. Sometimes men will come to counseling and feel bad that they don't know, what's going on with them. And so I will say this, you are not required
Mhm.
to have any of the answers. All you have to know is some just don't feel right.
Yes, so
Something's
good.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, some is off. That's it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So
That's
Go ahead.
solid because because it goes back to what I said about being true to yourself. To let
Yeah.
yourself be true. If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
So again, if you see something in yourself, say something.
Yes.
Because back to messaging, when we haven't been used to or given the platform to just be expressive,
yeah,
then in a crisis, you're probably not going to feel overly expressive, but you need something, which is what you say that was critical. It's like something's off.
yes,
So if something just feels off, it doesn't matter what the something is. Anonymity can be your friend. You can go through the email that we provided, the phone number, of course, that Terrell provided. We're going to make sure to connect you with him if that's what you're wanting, but to connect you to someone. But that just don't sit there and not move, not do it. Because again, this specific episode tonight was designed to help to get you off a ledge, to get it off your chest,
Yeah.
And so whether you're in that intermediary place or that place of crisis, or you're feeling anxious, you know it better than anyone else. So save yourself. You're worth it. You got value. And there is other messaging out there that people like Terrell would love to get into your ears and build you up. So you've been sailing with the fellowship. We hope that you've been refreshed, restored, and revived. Now, let us know, fellas, that you've joined the ship by subscribing to our FellaShip YouTube channel. You can also join us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, the FellaShip, Facebook group, and an IG page. I think I'm saying all that right.
Yeah.
And whichever one you go to, make sure you turn on notifications so that you'll know when we're going live.
Yeah.
Just look for that blue and white FellaShip sign that's on our shirts. It's on the screen. So wherever you see that, that means that you've gotten into the right place. And join us again next Sunday. We're going to cap off the month of June with a subject called silent frustrations.
Yeah.
Silent frustrations. So we're gonna tie all this together. So we appreciate you. Any parting shots for you first, Rob, and then Terrell, you'll take us out with anything that you may want to give as a recap.
I still have one more question. Is it okay? This is the last one. Is it okay to crash out sometime?
Oh boy,
Like sometimes you might just like you need it. Let me just get this off my chest real quick.
I'll say this: it's not good to crash out sometimes.
Okay,
because
okay.
that just teaches you how to crash out better the next time. It reinforces a bad thing, right?
Gotcha.
It's like don't practice punching holes in walls because you're just going to get better at punching holes in walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been there.
So,
Okay.
yes. Right. Oh man. Yeah. Something to leave off. I'll say this. To go back to some of my affinity for hip hop. There's this line from Talib Kweli. He said, I used to have a complex about being too complex. And the reason why I'm saying that is because be happy, be satisfied, be grateful with who you are and how God created you.
Yeah.
And even those parts of you that you feel are too complex, don't feel like you have a complex about being complex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Be okay with
Be okay with that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And learn about that. So yeah, that's it.
I like that. Okay.
All right. Yeah, close us out, Rob.
Y'all,
On the fellowship.
Just the fellowship, man. I'm glad y'all tuned in, man. Look, like, subscribe, share it with your people, man. Let them know what's going on. Thank y'all for joining us, man. Till next time. Damn, it's good.
Yo, you
Amen.